Hi everyone, thanks for joining us today. This lake behind me is Loch Henny. It's a great lake for fishing and for water skiing. I think they're getting ready to do some water skiing now, so you might see them in the background. But years ago I used to fish here all the time with some friends. My grandmother lived out on the other side of the Temple Crossroads, and Mum would drop me off here in the mornings, and I would spend probably 3 or 4 days a week fishing down here with a couple of lads. And we used to fish just at the side, or quite often on the jetty, for pike, and caught quite a number of pike over the years. But I remember one day there were 3 of us, and we were standing in the jetty. It was more of a pontoon then. It sort of floated on the surface. It wasn't as solid as it is today. And there was a kind of a little bridge that took you back into the car park. And the jetty was connected to that bridge with a large hinge, I would describe it as. And there was a big bolt that went through, a big bar that went through with 2 bolts at either end. And as we were standing on the jetty, the 3 of us with all of our fishing gear, one of us thought it would be a good idea to take one of the bolts out and slide the bar out, and that's what happened. And the next thing, the jetty, or the pontoon that we were standing on, began to float out into the middle of the lake. A couple of us thought it was very funny, and the other lad was scared out of his wits, because we were just drifting along, didn't know where we were going to end up, or maybe we'd get stuck in the middle, or maybe the thing would start to sink, or would end up stranded. There's a wee island over there at the other side. Just didn't know what was going to happen, or all these reeds up this side get stuck in those, with no telephones, no mobile phones in those days, so we're very much at the mercy of the elements. I have to say I quite enjoyed it. I thought it was a bit of an adventure. One of the other lads was laughing his head off, and another guy was really afraid. Thankfully the wind caught us and just sort of brought us around in a bit of a U-turn, and we ended up in this little bay here, and we packed up then and went home. Hope I don't incriminate myself by telling you this story. But you know, a lot of people in our world are just like us 3 lads back in those days, almost 30 years ago now, drifting along in life. No purpose, no direction, not sure where they're going, not sure where they're going to end up. Very much at the mercy, as it were, of this cruel world that we live in. Our society's just the same. There was a time in this land of ours whenever our lives, our land and our laws were closely connected and tied into the Word of God, and even to the 10 Commandments. And there was a certain fear of God and a respect for the things of God in the nation. But now we've got so clever, haven't we? And so smart. And we've separated ourselves from the solid foundation of God's precious Word. And now it seems that society is just drifting out into an abyss. And we don't know where we're going. You see, the reality is, if you turn your back on God and step away from God, you step into nothing. And all we know is that we're going somewhere as a nation, or maybe you're going somewhere as an individual, but you're not sure where you're going. Maybe you're afraid, like that lad that was with us in the pontoon that day. You're terrified. Or maybe you're like some of the others and you just laugh it off. But you know, the reality is, friends, we're travelling in this life and we're heading to a destination, heaven or hell. And it's so important to know where you're going. And it's so important, as Charles Haddon Spurgeon said, to have your heart tied and tethered to the cross of Jesus Christ. In the cross of Christ I glory, towering o'er the wrecks of time, all the light of sacred story gathers round its head sublime. The ages come and go, but the cross of Christ remains the same. Jesus Christ said He is the same yesterday and today and forever. And I encourage you today, get back to the Bible, get back to Christ, get back to the cross, so that you're not just drifting through life without purpose or meaning and direction. There's no better place to be than in the centre of God's will for your life. And that will is revealed in the precious Word of God. In all thy ways acknowledge Him, and He shall direct thy paths. The Lord shall guide us with His counsel, and afterwards receive us into glory. Make God your trust. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart. Lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge Him, and He shall direct thy paths. God bless you. See you next time.